Fitbit. What do you think when I say that?
Tracking fitness.
Yes, they're one of the best known wearable brands out there. They've been around for a number of years now. They make all kinds of wearables for tracking everything from your step count, like when you're running, jogging, or even walking, and also heart rate monitors built into a lot of them now. But what about sleep? Important.
Very important.
Well, Fitbits actually track sleep as well. On the line, we've got a sleep expert from Fitbit. He's the lead sleep researcher there. His name is Dr. Conor Heneghan. Did I get that right?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. I wanted to get you on the line because, when we look at a lot of these wearables that are in the market today, we just think about fitness tracking. But, a lot of them, including your Fitbits, actually track sleep as well. How important is it for people to know how well they're sleeping?
First, thanks, Mike and John, for having us on. Really appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, it's a great question. What Fitbit is trying to do ultimately is to help everyone in the world live a healthier life. And health has a lot of different components, but the really key ones, we talk about exercise, which is the first thing that came to your mind with fitness. But if you think about it, nutrition, sleep, and your mental well-being are equally important contributors to your overall health. So that's why Fitbit from the very beginning has had a holistic vision of trying to help people live healthier lives. And sleep is a very key component of the vision that we have for people to try and help them understand themselves and move towards better habits, healthier habits for their overall wellness. So that's, sleep is critical from that point of view. It might be worth saying a little bit about sort of the history and how I got involved here. So firstly, Fitbit's been around 12 years. It actually, sleep was very early in its development as a company. So even some of our earliest devices had some basic sleep tracking capability. And I joined Fitbit 4.5 years ago to really push the sleep tracking and the sleep programs to an even higher level than they were previously. My own background is a sort of biomedical engineering. So I came out of sort of medical field and a research field. And that was very important to Fitbit as a company. I have a very scientific and very rigorous development process. So the company before Fitbit that I worked was actually a medical device company that helps treat sleep apnea. So I've been deep in the area of sleep for about 15 to 20 years in my career at this point. And the first thing I got given when I came to Fitbit was, we already have this basic sleep tracking, which decides whether you're asleep or awake. But can you please improve it so we can give deeper and more meaningful information to our users? So one of the first features we developed when I was here was the ability to track sleep stages, which is the various components of your sleep, whether you're in deep sleep, REM sleep, wake, or light sleep. I'll pause for a moment just in case I'm bringing down an avenue you don't want to go, but I could talk to you a little bit more about the importance of the various stages of sleep and then how that feeds into your overall health and wellness.
Yeah, no, I'd be interested in that. How is it actually tracking the different stages?
Sure. So one of the things that's been known for a long time and just generally is when you're in different stages of sleep, your brain waves change. But part of that is also your autonomic system changes. So that's the nerves inside your body which are controlling your heart rate, your breathing, your digestion. So very specifically, your heart rate variability changes. So how quickly your heart beats, sometimes you have a heartbeat which is exactly on a regular rhythm. Other times it changes rapidly, for example, when you're dreaming. So what we did in Fitbit is we can measure every single heartbeat you have while you sleep using an optical sensor. So there's a little blip of light that gets changed every heartbeat. And from that, we can then construct the series of heart rate timing, and then we can see the variation of your heart rate. When you're in deep sleep, your breathing is very regular, your heart rate is very regular. So we can detect that regularity pattern. When you go into REM, which is the dreaming state of sleep, we can see the variation that dreaming causes. But when you're dreaming, you're effectively acting as if you're awake, but without actually moving. But your heart rate is responding almost as if you're awake. So there's a lot more variation. So we developed a machine learning algorithm that basically recognizes the different patterns of heart rate, combined them with the different patterns of movements on the stage of sleep, and then came up with this overall system for recognizing sleep stages.
How accurate is that?
Yeah, and we did a lot of testing against the gold standard in sleep labs. So we partnered with some sleep labs here in California. So the overall accuracy, there's a very, very obscure statistic called kappa, which is basically how much better do we do than chance. We do a lot better than just guessing randomly. But overall, it actually means we label the epochs about 70% correct, which never sounds very impressive. But if you actually take two human scorers, given the same data with all the brainwaves and everything, they get about 80 to 85% in many cases. So it's actually it was actually the best performance of any system that we could see at that time in the world. And remember that we're just looking at the wrists. We're not looking at your brainwaves. We're not looking at breathing patterns. We have we have to work with what we have on the wrist.
And so why is it important for people to understand the different parts of the sleep process, and how can that help them knowing that?
Yeah, for sure. So the physiology is basically when you're in deep sleep, you're most likely to get physical restoration. So, for example, human growth hormone, which is what repairs your muscles at night, it's secreted the most while you're in deep sleep. Similarly, for REM sleep, there's a lot of work which shown that when you have REM sleep, it's correlated with your memory formation. So in general, having the right amount or a good amount of deep sleep and REM sleep is associated with restorative sleep for your physical and mental well-being. And there are things we can do that kind of distract from that. So, for example, obviously, if you just don't give yourself enough time to sleep, you're not going to get as much sleep as you need. So that's the simplest thing. But then there are more subtle things, or not so subtle. Alcohol tends to disrupt your sleep patterns. So you might get into deep sleep quickly, but then later in the night, you lose a lot of your potential sleep. You get a much more fragmented sleep. Caffeine can keep you awake longer and change the distribution of sleep stages you get. So there are things we can do in our lifestyle, most of which we're probably fairly aware of, but which can disrupt our sleep stages and our sleep cycles.
How much deep sleep should someone get a night?
Yeah, so it depends a little bit on your age and your gender. So mostly age is the main effect. So if you're, let's say, in your 20s, you might be getting sort of 20, 25% deep sleep. As we age, it tends to get a bit less. So for, say a man or woman in their 70s, they might be down between 5 and 10%. So that's a natural part of just what happens as the brain ages. It's also, I mean, there is a lot of nurture variability. There might be some people for whom, getting 25% every night is normal. There might be other people for whom getting 8% every night is normal. But those are the indicative ranges that doctors look at.
What about naps?
Oh, yeah. Naps is a great source of controversy in sleep medicine. Naps are great. They're good for you and they're bad for you. If you sleep too late in the day, so if you decide to have a nap, say at 7 o'clock in the evening, you lie down, sleep for an hour, just chances are it's going to actually disrupt your drive to sleep later on. So when you go to bed at midnight, you probably won't fall asleep. So most sleep doctors recommend not napping, say, after 4 p.m. But earlier in the day, I think there's a lot of benefits, particularly if it's a shortish nap, so 30 to 40 minutes max. You don't really want to get into the full deep sleep stages because when you wake up from that, you tend to feel very groggy. And again, it tends to reduce your sleep drive.
We're talking with a sleep expert. His name's Dr. Conor Heneghan. I can't even pronounce it properly. Dr. Sleep. Heneghan. Is that correct?
Heneghan. Or Heneghan.
I'm sorry for mispronouncing. So I have another question. Yesterday, I wasn't feeling too well, and I was on the couch watching TV most of the afternoon, binge watching a few shows, and I think I was near a comatose state. Can it determine the difference between sleep and me just kind of not moving a single muscle and binge watching TV on a rainy afternoon?
I mean, that's the challenging technology question. For sure, even when you're kind of watching TV, people do tend to practice a twitch a little bit more than when they're actually asleep. Likewise, your heart rate is probably not going to be quite the same regularity as when you're truly asleep. But the interesting thing is there's what's called stage 1 sleep, which we're all familiar with, which is where you're not actually quite sure if you're asleep or not. And it's a natural transition into sleep. And that's a very hard phase of sleep for anybody to pick up, even with the brainwave patterns. That's the one that the sleep labs don't get right most of the time. And it's possible that when sometimes when you're watching, depending on what you're watching, you could be drifting in and out of that stage 1 sleep if it's not very engaging.
I guess the one good thing about Fitbit, John, compared to some of the other fitness trackers out there, is the battery life on them. That would be important if you want to use your Fitbit during the day and then track sleep as well.
Absolutely. And that's the big thing. I'll be honest, I have an Apple Watch. I don't use it for sleep tracking because there is no native sleep tracking, and I put it on my charger every night. I know Steven, who has a Fitbit and loves it, he gets like weeks of battery life with his device. So if that's really important to you, I think that's definitely the way to go. And maybe I'll get a Fitbit just for my sleep tracking.
I want to thank you for joining us on the show today. Where can people find out more information?
I guess go to www.fitbit.com will be a good place to start.
Well, thanks for coming on the program. Looking forward to looking at Steven's sleep information here, making sure he's getting enough.
Anytime you want to find out more, we're delighted to help out.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.